Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Lowrance Training Academy. I am here with my HDS 12 Live, and what I'm going to do today is show you how to use all the ins and outs and menus with the new Lowrance Lifesite Transducer. Now, before we get started with that, I always find the best thing to do is to make sure that you have the latest software update available for your unit and any other accessories that may require updates. And so we're here, we're looking at our unit. I'm just sitting here on our Sonar screen. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to press my Pages button right up here. And then I'm going to go over here and I'm going to hit my little settings gear. And then you have to kind of, with this on the system menu selected here, you're going to scroll it up and then you're going to select About. And then up here in the top corner, you're going to see what your version application number is. As you can see, mine is 18.3. and the application is 61.1.133. Now, in order to be able to use the Lifesite Transducer, you have to have at least a 19.1 update. Now, Lowrance did just release a brand new update for both the HDS Live and the Lifesite Transducer just a couple days ago on August 7th. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and get that downloaded to our SD card. I'm going to show you how to do that here in just a second, and then we're going to come back to the unit and we're going to install it. And then once we're up and running, I'm going to show you how to use all of the menus and the features of this transducer. So all right, so I will see you back at the computer in 1 second.
All right, guys, now that we are back on our computer here, what we're going to do is we're going to go to the Lowrance website and we're going to download the updates from the website. So over here, I'm going to go ahead and click on Google Chrome. Now you can use other web browsers like Microsoft Edge or Internet Explorer, but I personally like Google Chrome. I find it's a little bit easier to use as well as to access the files once you have downloaded them. So I'm going to go ahead and just click on Google Chrome right here, and we're going to open up our web browser. I'm going to maximize my window, and then up in the corner here I'm going to go ahead and type in the address for Lowrance. So it's www.lowrance.com, and then we're going to go ahead and press enter to pull it up. Now that's going to take us straight into the Lowrance website. Now up at the top up here, you're going to see the little tab for help and support. We're just going to go ahead and click on it. Now this is going to bring up our help and support screen. Now right below the search bar, you're going to see right here where you have your manuals and software updates. We're going to go ahead and click on that as well. Now that brings us to our downloads drop down window. Just click on the little arrow right here in the corner. Now that drops down. Now like I said, there's actually two updates that we're going to download. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to do the HDS Live update first. So we're going to scroll through this list here and find for the HDS Live. And just click right there. Now it's going to be at the very bottom of this list. You're going to see there's a bunch of different files, software addendums, installation manuals, mounting templates. But at the very bottom, you're going to see the software update. So you'll see where it shows HDS Live software upgrade 19.1. Just go ahead and click there. Now on this next screen, you're going to see all the different features that were added in on this latest version of the 19.1. As you can see here, this is the .153 application of it. This is actually the third version of the 19.1 that they've come out with. And like I said, you can see all the different fixes and improvements that they've made for this particular version. But just down here at the bottom of the screen in blue, we're going to click on where it says to download the HDS Live software upgrade. And now you're going to see right here where you can register your product. For the sake of the video, I'm just going to say I'm going to do it later. But if you wish, you can click on here and register it. It's going to ask for like your name, email, address, and the serial number of your unit. And what it'll do is it'll give you a registration code that you can then enter into the registration screen on your display. I'm sure you have noticed that when you turned on your unit at various points in time where it had actually asked you if you wanted to do the software up or the device registration. And so you can put it in there. But it doesn't have anything to do with like warranty registration. It is just strictly for marketing purposes. So by no means do you actually need to do this. You can just choose to do it if you want to receive like say emails and notifications when new updates like this come out, or just new products or events are being released. So I'm just going to go ahead and click no. I'm going to do this another time. And now you're going to see right here what's going to say download your file here. Now when we click on this, you're going to see it's going to pop up down here at the bottom left-hand corner of the screen, showing my download. Now, you're going to see where it's actually downloading the progression of it. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and let that download. And now, once it's done, we're actually going to click on the little arrow here, and you're going to see there's different options. What I like to do is just click on Show in Folder. I find it's a lot easier to be able to access the file that you downloaded, as well as to be able to transfer it back over to the SD card so that we can then take it back to our HDS and do the update. So we're just going to give it a second here, and we're going to let this finish downloading the file. Okay, as you can see that we're about done downloading the file here, and now that it's completed, and you can see that the file download is no longer showing an actual download in progress, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to click on Show in Folder, which is going to bring up just the files on my computer here. And at the very top, it's going to show you the 19.162.153 file. Now, at this point in time, I'm going to go ahead and insert my SD card into my computer. Now, most computers have an SD card slot on them. I'm using a laptop, so mine already has a built-in slot. Some computers don't, and so if you don't already have one on your computer itself, you can go and pick up like a little USB card reader. They only cost about $5 or $6, and allows you to be able to plug it into the USB port on your computer, and then you can insert your SD card into that. So I'm going to go ahead and insert my card now. We're going to see it pop up. All right, so the new window opened up here. I'm just going to go ahead and set this aside for now. Now, I find the easiest way to transfer it is you can see down here where it popped up, it says SDHCE. That's my SD card. So what you can do is I'm just going to left click and hold down my button on the file. So I'm just holding down the left button, and now I can drag it over here and set it down right on top of my SD card and release. And what it's going to do is it's just going to copy that file directly onto my SD card. So now the file is right on the card. And it's really as simple as that. So the card's actually ready to be taken out and back to the unit to install the update. But before we do that, we need to download the Lifesite Transducer update first. So let's go ahead, let's go back to our site here, and then we're going to go ahead and back up a little bit. And then we're back to our drop-down window here for the downloads. We're going to go down this list, and we're going to find for the Lifesite Transducers. So we'll go ahead and click on it. And then you're going to kind of go through the same process as before. We're just going to click on the Lifesite Transducer upgrade, 19.1. We're going to download the Lifesite, and again, you can see the little feature enhancements. You can go ahead and read them if you like. I'm just going to skip over that for now. So we click on it. I'm going to say no, I'll do the registration later, and then I'm going to download my file. Now again, you see it pop up down here. It is downloading our file. This file is actually significantly smaller than the update for the unit itself, but so we're going to go ahead and let this download, and then as soon as it's done, we're going to follow the same process as before. We're going to go ahead and we're going to click on our little arrow right here. All right, we can see that it's done. We click on the arrow, we hit Show in Folder, and now we see our file. Now you'll notice that the file type at the end right here is different. The file type for the unit itself is a .upd. What that means is that so when you insert the card into your unit, you're going to put it in while it's off and then turn it on, and it's going to automatically run the update. The .riw file for the Lifesite is a little different. We're going to have to actually go into the storage menu in the unit and manually force the update over to the transducer. But I'll show you that here in just a minute. So for right now, I'm just going to go ahead, I'm going to grab and left click like I did before and hold the button down. And then drag it over the top of our SD card and release. Now you're going to see it go ahead and start downloading that update. Alright, so now down here at the bottom, you can see your little file folder. Those are your File Explorer windows, just like this. So I'm going to go ahead and click on it, and then I'm going to click on my SDHC file here. And so when that comes up right here, you can see that, again, both files are now on the card, both the UPD file for the unit and the RIW file for the Lifesite Transducer. So all right, so it is ready to go. So we're going to go ahead and take this card out of the computer, and we're going to head back to the unit and put the update in there. So I'll go ahead and see you guys back at the unit here in just 1 second.
Alright guys, now that we've got that downloaded and we are back at our unit here, I'm going to go ahead and take that SD card that I downloaded the updates onto, and I'm going to insert it into the display. Now on these HDSs, the little card door's down here, so you're going to kind of grab it from the right there, and then with your card it's going to go metal tabs facing down. And so you can really insert them into whichever slot. I'm just going to put mine into slot 2 right here. Make sure you click it in, close the door, and then we're going to go ahead and we're just going to power on our unit. And now as it's powering up, what it's going to do is it's going to recognize that update that we have on the card, and it's going to immediately start installing it here onto the display. So you're going to see like a little progress bar is going to pop up on here. There you go. It's saying it's validating update, please wait. And we're just going to let it sit here while it loads into it. Now, I'm not going to make you wait here the whole time, so I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to speed this up until it is done loaded, and then I'll be right back. Alright, now that it is fully updated there, the unit's going to go ahead and reboot itself, and then it's just going to load back up like it normally does. You're just going to see it load just as, you know, it does every other time. And then once it gets uploaded here, back fully up and running, what we're going to do is we're going to go in, we're going to check our settings, and we're going to make sure that the Lifesite features have been enabled. If they haven't, then we're going to manually go in and set those up. The unit should automatically do that for you, but I've seen in some cases where it doesn't, especially if that transducer is pretty out of date as well. And so we'll go ahead, once this is up, look at that and see where it's at. Alright, now that it's up, we're going to go ahead and we're just going to press accept like we normally do. Alright, so we're going to come up to just our regular screen that we were sitting at before. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to press my pages button up here because we're going to check for the Lifesite features. And so as you can see, the Lifesite hasn't been enabled on here just yet. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go in and we're going to press our little settings gear. And then under the system menu, we're going to scroll it up. And this time we're going to go to advanced. And then we're going to go and select features. And now you can see where you have your Lifesite down and forward. Now I'm going to show you how to do both of them. We're going to start off with the forward scan, but I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to turn them both on right now. So I'm going to click that on. I'm going to click my other one on there. So now all I got to do is we're going to exit out of there. Now as you can see, it pops up and says, hey, you know, these have been discovered. You want to go ahead and set this up? I'm going to go ahead and say later for right now. You can go ahead and configure it, but I'm going to go in and show you kind of more the more in-depth way of setting it up, which will take us back to this. And so for right now, I'm just going to say later. And now you can see, you need to complete your setup. Do you want to configure now or do it later? Again, I'm just going to do mine later. Now you can see that the features have been enabled, which is good. Let's go ahead and exit out of there. All right, so now let's go ahead and go back to our pages screen. And now you can see we have our Lifesite options there to be able to select. Now before we do that, we need to actually go in and physically configure it like it was showing. So what we're do is we're going to press our little settings gear here, and then we're going to scroll up on the side here, and we're going to select our Sonar option there. And then down at the very bottom, we want to select Lifesite installation. So we just tap on that there. So now, when you get to the screen, you're going to see where it says our source. So this is how you're going to be able to tell what software version that transducer is running. As you can see, this says .1.114. Well, that is not the latest update. Like I said, on August 7th, Lowrance came out with a newer version. I believe it's the .153. And so before we go ahead and do any of this, we're going to go ahead and we're going to update that transducer with the update file that we just downloaded to the card from our computer. So let's go ahead and we're going to select cancel for right now. And then we're going to go ahead and press our pages button. And then what we need to do is we're going to click storage over here. Because whenever you're updating an accessory device, let's say it's a Lifesite transducer or a 3D structure scan box, anything like that, they don't update automatically like they do whenever you just, like we did for the unit where we put the card in and we turned it on. We actually have to physically go in and tell it to update it. So now from that storage screen, we're going to go ahead and we're going to select our memory card. And now we can see both of those update files that we downloaded before. Now what we're going to do is we're going to click on our Lifesite update right here. Now it's going to give us the option to upgrade, which we want to select. Now, when you come here, we need to select what we're going to update. So we're going to click on it, and then we're going to hit Start Upgrade. And there you can go. You can see where it's transferring data. You can see the progress. And now you can see that it is now, let's see, synchronizing the file systems, and it is at 100%. Now, once it's completed, it'll pop back up here and tell us that it is done, I believe. All right, so it's rebooting. Now we're just going to give it a minute here. Sometimes these updates take a few minutes on the accessory devices. Usually they're a little bit faster than the actual updates for the unit themselves. But you know, it kind of depends on the size of that particular update. So we're going to go ahead and let this load up here. All right, so you can see that it is now upgrade complete. So I'm going to hit OK, and now it popped back up and asks us if we want to, configure it. Again, I'm just going to say later because I'm going to manually do it. Now later. So now you can see the upgrade is complete and it is at 100%. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to go back into our settings here for the Lifesite, and we're going to check and make sure that that update went in successfully. So I just press my settings gear there, I select Sonar, and then I select my Lifesite installation, and now you can see that my version is 62.1.153. Now that is the version that we downloaded onto our card, so that means that it downloaded successfully. And so, all right, so let's go ahead and let's get this all set up here. So as you can see from this second option right here, you have your Lifesite selection. Now you can pick where you're going to do either forward or down. Like I said, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do my forward scan for right now. So I'm just going to select forward. Now you have other options here, like you have your depth offset, where if you want to adjust various depths for the depth of the transducer itself. So say it's a little bit deeper down into the water, so you can click on it and we can go positive or negative. It's the same as with like your other offsets that you've got with, you say your structure offset or your sonar offset, where if you want to actually say if you had like a keel or something like that, something that's actually deeper down, lower than that, than the Lifesite transducer, then you can add in that actual additional depth to it. So that way when it shows up on the screen over on your scale here, it's going to show like a positive or a negative number. It won't actually affect your depth number in the corner up here. It's only going to adjust your depth range over there. So it just kind of allows you at a quick glance or look to know if, say, you have some clearance or room before you're going to run into, the bottom or whatever it is that's down there. And so that's all that really is. But for right now, I'm just going to leave mine at 0. So I'm going to hit OK. Now you have your water temperature calibrations where you can go in and you can make like these adjustments to it. Now it doesn't work in the sense where, let's say it's 5 degrees off. You can't just go in and say add 5 degrees or minus 5 degrees and it changes it. You can only make like minor calibrations to it to kind of fine tune it a little bit. And so I'm just going to say OK. And then now you have your angle offset, which is going to be like, so you have the angle of your forward scan, because so as you know, whenever you mounted it, it's tilted upwards. Now, if you weren't able to fully tilt it in one direction or another, or the way that you're having to mount it is actually tilted a little bit different than the optimal setting of mounting it, so you can go in and you can adjust that degree offset right there by just clicking on it. And then you can adjust that degree on there. Now mine's pretty straight, so I don't need to adjust mine for the time being. So I'm gonna hit cancel. And now you have your restart configuration wizard. Now if you click on it, this is where you get that same screen where you saw before. Now if I hit configure, I can then go in, I can select my forward. And now it's configuring the Lifesite device, and I can hit finish. Now I recommend always doing that before you start for the day if you did change, whether it was forward or down. And so like for me, so I'm just starting out, so I needed to make sure that I set it to the forward configuration on there. So now when I go back into it, Sonar, Lifesite installation, everything is all still set the same way it is, but the unit is now configured to read the forward scan. And so let's go ahead and we're going to exit out of here. Now, forward scan also has the ability to do regular sonar, but that is only when you're doing the down view on it. Since I'm doing the forward scan, I can't actually do that at the time being, but you need to make sure that you set it to your channel 1 when you're doing that, because it plugs into the blue port and your unit won't recognize anything if you have it set to the channel 2 instead. Now so I'm going to go back, so you can actually see that it's starting to kind of scroll across, and it is picking up a depth reading. Because I have it forward, it's not going to read all that accurately. I don't think I'm in quite in 20 feet of water. I think I'm in about 15, and so it is pinging a little bit deeper than what it should. But as you can see, it does read traditional sonar off of it. Now, our water temperature isn't showing up. Now, these transducers do have water temperature. If you look at the bottom of the transducer, there's a little round, little brass circle on it. That's the temperature sensor on it. And so I've heard people think or say that they don't come with water temperature, but they do. And so if I need to set that, so you can see their dashed lines, it's not reading anything. What I can do is I can press my pages button right here. I can hit my settings gear. Now I'm going to scroll it up and I'm going to go to network. And then I'm going to go into my data sources right there. We're going to select Sonar, water temperature. And now I'm going to choose HDS 12 Sonar channel 1 as my water temperature. Now you can see that it pops up the temperature down there at the bottom. And so now when I exit out, you're going to see that it is now giving me a water temperature reading. It's actually a really common thing that happens with these. If you ever, let's say you plug in or unplug a transducer while the unit is on, usually that'll happen. It'll get an invalid source and you have to actually manually go back in and reset that source on it in order for it to be able to read correctly. Like I said, I come across that daily where people are running into that. And so I believe I did make a video on how to do that on these units already, but I just wanted to kind of touch base on that in case you didn't watch that video yet. And so, all right, so let's go ahead and let's go back into our settings here. So I'm going to press my pages button, which brings up my pages screen. All right, and now from this screen, all you're going to do is you're going to actually select which view you want. Now they both just say Lifesite, and so you have to kind of pay attention to the picture. As you can see, this one has the little V pointing down, which means it is the down view, and this one is kind of pointing over to the right, which means it's the side view. Pretty self-explanatory, but I just wanted to mention that anyways. Now before I get into that, I actually wanted to make like a little shout out here. I wanted to point out I just got my brand new Lew's rod and reel. It is the new Mach 2. I just want to say, I mean, this is probably the best reel I have ever had. Before, I always used quantum reels, which I really like them because they have that kind of unique flip switch feature to where when you push down on the button, when you let go, it automatically clicks back into place instead of having to wait to turn the reel on there to get it to lock back. I really like that feature on it. I kind of got used to using it, so it's been kind of a little bit of a challenge getting, used to going back to the old style way of doing it. But aside from that, though, this thing casts so far and it is so smooth, and I have yet to run into any issues where it spools out or the line the line on it gets kind of like wound up and you have to sit there and pull all your line back out and reel it back in, which is as you guys know, it's a real pain. But I got it as a like a combo kit. Now it's the speed stick is the rod that came with it. Like I said, it was a little combo pack. The one thing I want to point out is that instead of using the little foam handles on there, which over time can crack and break, these actually come with this rubberized material. Now you can get them in different colors. I've seen them and they come in blue and orange and green on here, but and this is an unbiased opinion. Lew's did not give me this reel or donate to me. I went and paid full price for it. It was a little bit expensive, but absolutely worth it. Like I said, this is by far the best reel that I have ever used. And so I just wanted to kind of point that out to you guys, just like I said, a little shout out on there. But all right, so let's go ahead and get back to our unit here. So all I'm going to do is, since I'm using my forward scan, I'm going to select my little button right here where it's pointed to the right, which is now going to bring up my forward view on here. So all right, so now as you can see it is scanning on there. Now I have talked to a lot of guys who are having a lot of issues with getting their Lifesite to initiate or activate. Now Lowrance put out that newest update that we just installed specifically for that reason. And so now they fixed that problem, so you don't have to worry about resetting the unit, turning it off and on, and dealing with all that, trying to get it to work and initiate again. And so going back to it here, you can see as it's kind of shooting out forward, you can see just everything that's kind of in the water. Obviously this is the bottom as it's kind of coming out. It does get a little bit shallower in front of me there. And so all these little objects right here that are kind of popping up in the water, those are actually the fish that I'm picking up right there. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to cast out in front of us so that we can see it here. ahead and see if we can get this to come in here a little bit. Actually, we've got quite a bit of fish just sitting right around in front of us here. See, there's my jig right there. As you can see it kind of go up and down. You see that bounce up and down there as it goes up, and see the little fish kind of coming up right below me here. Let's reel it back in so you can see it coming up. There we go, as we reel it all the way in, and then we're back out of the water there. So I'm actually going to do that one more time so you can see that a little bit better again. All right, you can see our little jig again right there, kind of bouncing up and down. See those fish coming up to it and looking at it. They've got quite a few right here. Oh, they're really on it. Fortunately, I think these are all mostly just kind of smaller bait fish. All right, so I just want to kind of show you that there, so you can see how that kind of pops up on there in front of us. And so let's go ahead and cover some of these menu options on here. All right, so we've got our options over here on the right. We've got our variety of menus. You know, they're very similar to the options that you've seen before with your regular Sonar screen. The very first option is going to be our mode. So we can click on it and you can turn it to auto, where it just automatically sets everything for you. Or you can actually go in and you can set it to custom, where you can manually adjust those. Now the first option down here, or the next option up, is going to be our cross range. So that's 70 feet. So when you have these two ranges, so you have your cross range and your down range. Your cross range is the range that goes across the top right here. So as you can see, so 70 feet, it shows 70 right there. So that's how far out in front of me I'm looking. So I can click on it and I can manually set that range to basically whatever I want. I usually recommend actually just setting it to the range that you know, it's specifying, or if you want to kind of zoom in on an area right in front of you, like say I can set it to 40, and now I'm kind of zooming in on this little area right in here. I want to even say to 30, and now we can see all those fish and everything right around us a little bit clearer and a little bit better, as well as it's kind of like I believe it's like a little bit of a brush pile that's just right down here underneath us. And so we can go ahead and go back. Now we also have our down range, which obviously that is our range that goes down the side right here. We can click on it. Now this one has an auto on it, so you can click down here. You see it has a little orange corner. When you click it off, the orange corner goes away and it turns it into a manual depth range, where you can go in and you can set it to whatever you want. Again, I recommend setting it to an auto range, which right now sets us at a 20-foot range. So we can go ahead and go back. Now we have our sensitivity setting, to where this one isn't a manual set, or I'm sorry, it's not an auto setting, so you can actually manually go in and increase or decrease it. See, mine right now is defaulting to 87, because the unit does use kind of an algorithm in there to kind of determine what the range should be automatically for you, but I believe it does default around 87. And so as you can see, you can either touch the plus and minus to make it go up and down, or you can touch your finger on here and you can drag it up and down like that. Now as you can see, the lower I go, the less imaging it gives me. The higher I go, the more it gives on there. But you kind of want to get it just right in that sweet spot, to where you're getting just enough to see what's out there, but not too much where you're not just cluttering up the screen with just junk on there. So let's go ahead and go back. Now we have our advanced menu. We have our restore mode default and our more options. Both the advanced and more options are going to take us into another set of menus, and the restore mode default is just going to default everything back to the way it originally was. So let's go into advanced. Now we have our noise rejection. Now it is going to default to low. Now you can go just like with the regular Sonar settings. You can set it to off. As you can see, how much more it picks up on there when I set it to off. I can go to low. I can go to medium, and I can go to high. Now, I don't really have a whole lot right now in the water because I am on a kayak, so there's not really a whole lot of noise out there. But say if you are around a lot of other boats that are out fishing, or you're running a motor, sometimes that you can pick up the noise on there and you'll get some extra clutter and interference on there. And in that case, you will want to start increasing it. But because it is a filter, the higher you go, the more it is going to kind of filter out, which means that you can kind of filter out your fish. So you don't want to go too high with it automatically. It's just kind of like a, only if necessary, you'll increase that up. But so recommend leave it on the default for low. Let's go back. Now down, the last option here is our more options. We can click it, and now again you're going to see kind of the same options that you've seen before, where you have your stop sonar. We can click it and it just stops it entirely. It stops the transducer from pinging. It just stops all things from working on it. So we can click on it to reinitiate it. It's going to kind of pop back up here. There we go. Now we have our target trails. Now we turn those on. As you can see, it leaves a little trail behind the fish that are swimming around. It kind of lets you see what direction they're traveling towards, and and where they've been, and basically kind of lets you know where they're going. It's a nice little cool feature that they add on there. I don't really necessarily use it, but some people might like that. I think it's pretty neat that they added that on there. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and turn mine off. Now you have your color palette, which obviously you have just the different colors that you can pick between. And this is kind of more of just a personal preference kind of thing on here. So as I go through, you can switch between the different colors. I kind of like number one. On this one, to me, it makes them kind of stand out a little bit better. A little bit easier to see when I'm in kind of direct sunlight. Now, if it's getting a little bit darker outside, I think number 3 or number 4 is actually a pretty cool one to use, like I said, but only really when it's dark outside. But again, just a personal preference. You can use any one that you want. It's not going to really affect the performance of it. It's just, like I said, personal preference kind of thing. So I'm going to set line back to 1. Now we're going to go back. Now we have our range grid. Now what that does is it just kind of gives you a grid on your screen, kind of give you a better idea of where a target may be out on here. So you can just follow the grid lines to see, so that so this one right here, I know that it's at 6 feet, right about 5 feet in front of me. And so it's just another little feature they add on there. To me, it kind of clutters up the screen a little bit too much, so I don't care for it myself, but you can turn it on or off at your leisure. And now the last option here is going to be our record video. Now this is kind of like the log sonar. When I hit it, it brings up here where I can now record. Where I can record. I can go in, I can change my file name. I can click on file name here. I can type in whatever I want to type in. You get the standard keypad. You can choose where you want to save to, where on this one, it's going to automatically default to your memory card if you have it available on here. So as you can see, it shows memory card bottom. You can also set it to log sonar, where it says also log sonar. So not only is it going to record this Lifesite video, but it's going to record just your standard sonar log as well. And then the very last option here is our time remaining. I'm using a 32 gig card, so it's given me 1 day and 7 hours worth of recording time. And so, the larger cards you use, the more available memory you have to save to it. Now, the units can only use up to a 32 gig card, so about 1 day and 7 hours is going to be about where it's going to max at for it. But you don't have to use that big of a card. I mean, honestly, if you use just like a 4 or 8 gig card, you're still going to get several hours worth of recording time for it. But if you want to, you can go ahead and you can hit record. And now you're going to get this little flashing red dot up in the corner to let you know that it is recording. And then when you're done, you just click back down here and it automatically stops it and saves that file to your card. And so it's really as easy as that. There's not really a whole lot of other settings to it. In reality, it's pretty easy to use, I think, in my opinion. I feel like it is a pretty good idea to adjust your range there so that it does make it a little bit larger on the screen, so you're not getting an area that you're not really interested in or picking up on. All right, so that's going to be it for our forward scan. So I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to adjust my transducer to make it the down, and I will be right back with you. All right, so now I have adjusted it to be pointing down. So as you can see, we're on our forward scan screen, so it's just kind of showing a weird image here. So before I go into it, I just want to point out that I'm using on a special mount, kind of custom one I made for my Kayak, which allows me to actually be able to change it to both forward and down. Now, the average person isn't going to be able to just quickly adjust that, because when you're putting on a trolling motor, when you're doing the forward scan, you have to put it up on the shaft. And when you're doing your down scan, you put it on the bottom. And so there's actually different mounting brackets that you use that you'll see that comes in the box with it. Like I said, I was able to just make like a little custom bracket here to where I can actually tilt it forward or down to do both for the purposes of this. And so that's actually why I think it's actually a really good transducer for kayak fishermen. You know, I actually attached like a little handle onto it to where I can grab my handle and I can actually turn it and point it in different directions on there, so I can see kind of all around me to kind of simulate like when you have it on a trolling motor, to where, you know, you turn your trolling motor left and right and you can see all around you. But I just wanted to kind of point that out. It's not something that you can just quickly do yourself. You know, like I said, the average person can't just do that. So don't just go in and flip it from forward to down and expect it to work with the mount that you're using in most situations. So, but what we're going to do is, now that I've changed it, we need to go in and we need to reconfigure it to work for the down view. So I'm going to press my pages button here, and then I'm going to press my settings gear. I'm going to go into my Sonar, and I'm going to go into my Lifesite installation. All right, so now you can go in and you can change it to your down view right here. But what I recommend, slide it up, select Restart Config Wizard. I want to configure now. And now I'm going to select down scan this time. Now I'm going to go ahead and hit finish because it went ahead and adjusted it there. So I hit finish. So now let's go ahead and let's go back in. Sonar, installation. And now we're down here on our down view. So everything is all set up. It's the way we want it. And we're going to hit save. Now what we're going to do is we're going to press our pages button here, and we're going to switch it to our down view. We're just going to give it a second here to load up. All right, so now we can see our Lifesite down imaging picture. So as you can see, instead of it angling outwards, you get this little kind of V shape to show you what is all down directly below you. Now you can see all the fish that are kind of swimming around here, all around us. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to cast back out, or I'm going to drop my lure down right into that so we can see it here on the screen. All right, we're going to give it a second here as it kind of comes back down into view. As it starts coming in here, we're going to see it kind of pop in from the side. All right, so we can actually see it here. You can see that big line kind of there in the center as it's kind of dragging across. Right here, that is actually our line with our jig there. So actually it's that sensitive to where you can actually pick up the line from you know, your fishing line basically. So I'm grabbing my reel and I'm kind of lifting it up so you can see it kind of come up. As I drop it back down, you'll see it drop back down in there in real-time imaging. So then you can see all the fish kind of swimming around looking at my jig there. Now I switched to a larger one, and I believe these are all just kind of crappie, so they're not really too interested in my larger bass fishing worm that I've got on here. But as you can see it just kind of moves around. Here on the screen you can see it as I kind of bob it up and down, move it from side to side on there. And so it's actually pretty cool. You know, to me it kind of reminds me of the ultrasound imaging, you know, whenever they're doing, you know, doing like a pregnancy test and they're, you know, doing a woman's womb, so it does that kind of circular pattern and stuff on there. But like I said, I think it's kind of neat on there. And so actually there's a very large piece of structure coming up underneath me here. I believe it's a tree. Well, okay, all right, so let's go back into the settings on this one here. So as you can see, we've got basically the same options here for the most part. We have our mode, or we can set it to just auto mode, where you can still go in and you can select your more options feature there when it's in auto. But I like running mine in manual or custom, and so that way I can, you know, I have a little more control over what's happening here on it. All right, so the next one up is going to be our range. So what we're going to do is when you click on it, you're going to get your range that's going to go down the side right here. Now it's going to default to auto on here, which is where I actually really recommend leaving it on, so that way you don't have to kind of keep going through and changing it yourself. And it really just, it uses the depth to automatically select what range it needs to put it on, which, like I said, it's really best just to leave that on auto. But if you wanted to, you can turn it off and you can manually go through and you can adjust the range in which it's seen here on the screen. But with this particular, type of transducer, I really think that it's best just to kind of leave it right where the depth comes across the bottom, and it automatically sets it for you. So let's go ahead and set that. Now you're going to see these numbers across the top here, where you got a kind of like a negative value and a positive value. Those numbers you can't actually physically change. It's just showing you how far out to the side that it's picking up. But it will adjust as you go into deeper on it. But as you can see, the numbers get bigger like that, but they're automatic. They go according to whatever actual range you have it set to. So you can't adjust just these numbers by themselves. You can only adjust this, which then correlates with these directly. And so let's go ahead, let's turn our auto range back on. And let's go back here. All right, and so the next one is going to be our sensitivity. Now, this is like before, where you can press your plus button to go up, you can hit your minus button to go down, or you can touch your finger on the little circle here and you can drag it down to make the imaging, a lot less. You can go all the way up to make it more. Or, like I said, you kind of want it just right in that little sweet spot, which about 85 is about where I like it, at least in the conditions that I'm at right now, which is kind of the standard lake water. And so I'm going to leave it right there, and we're going to go ahead and go back. And now you have the same options as before. You have your advanced, your more options, and you have your restore mode defaults, which just resets all of the back to factory settings for you, but just on the screen, not on all of your other pages. But let's go ahead and let's go into advanced. So we now have our noise rejection like before. It's going to again default to low. It is a filter, so the higher you go, the more it is going to remove off of that screen. And so it is erasing fish or removing fish from the screen there. And so unless you just really necessarily need to do it, recommend running on low. Like I said, unless there's a lot of other boaters in the water or you're picking up noise from your engine, and just leave it on low right there. Now we're going to go ahead and go back, and then we're going to go into our more options. All right, so again, we have our stop sonar. It's where it just stops the screen, stops the transducer from pinging. Which sometimes is a good idea if you have it on your trolling motor and you're going to be pulling up out of the water for a while. The transducers can run out of the water without being damaged. But, it's, in my opinion, I don't like really doing it. And so a lot of times I'll hit my stop sonar if I'm going to pull up out of the water for, if I know it's going to be more than just for a couple of minutes. Now, we also have our target trails, where before, it leaves the trails from where the fish were and kind of lets you know where they're heading towards. It's just, again, just kind of a neat little feature they add on to it. I'm going to turn mine off for now. Now you have your palette, which is the different colors. Now you can go through and you can change them like before. You have all the different colors you can pick from. I kind of like number one. Also, it makes it a little bit easier for you guys to see at home watching this video. So I'm definitely going to leave it on number one for right now. And so let's go ahead and go back. Now we also have our range grid. It's where, again, gives you the grid lines on the screen, kind of gives you a good of indication, and just got a quick glance exactly at what depth or distance various objects in the water are. But I don't really care for it myself. But, the average user might like that. And so it just gives you the ability to do that. And now, again, you also have your record video, where you can hit it. It's the same as before. You can choose to set the file name. Automatically defaults to your SD card. You can set it to also record a traditional sonar log. And then you can also see how long of time remaining you have available for it. And then if you want to record it, you just hit record. You'll get the little flashing red dot in the corner. And then when you're done, you'll hit stop the recording. So I'm just going to cancel it for now. And so that's really about it for the Lifesite. I think it's a really cool transducer. I think it's a great tool, especially for a kayak. I think I'm going to plan on using this quite a bit more, for the times I go out fishing on here. And so one last thing I'll point out is that, like I mentioned before, it does do traditional sonar. And so now that I'm on my regular or down view, I can press my pages, I can go to sonar. So now I get my nice two-dimensional sonar picture on here, which I already made a video showing you guys how to use all the features and menus for your regular sonar, so I won't go through all that right now. But if you need to know about that, watch my video on how all the sonar features explained for the HDS Live and Carbon. But make sure, again, you're set to channel 1 because this does plug into the blue port on the back, which is your channel 1 port. And so make sure you're plugging into it. You know, if you can't get your Lifesite or anything to work, make sure you're plugged into it and not the black port. I've talked to a lot of people who've accidentally plugged into the wrong one and they just couldn't get anything to work. That's about it. There's one last little thing I want to kind of point out on here is that it does pick up the transducer type automatically for here for this transducer. So if you ever want to check that, you can go in and you can press your pages button up here. You can select your little settings gear. You can then select sonar and then go to installation, just regular installation this time. And then you're going to see that your transducer type is Lifesite. Now, make sure that your source is set to channel 1, because if you switch it to channel 2, it's going to come up as unknown unless you have like your 3-in-1 transducer or something plugged into it. But again, make sure it's set to 1. And now it is going to be grayed out and it's going to automatically come up as Lifesite because this transducer does have the XID feature in it, which is the transducer identification software. And it does work plugged into the blue port. You know, a lot of other transducers that have the XID only read in through the black port. But like I said, this one does work on the blue. So you can go in and you can check and make sure that Lifesite is selected. So that's another little troubleshooting thing for it. And just to make sure that, you know, so say if you have everything plugged in and it's not reading it, come in here, make sure that Lifesite is selected and reading. And so, all right. So that's really about it for today, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate all of your support. And as always, stay safe out there, guys. All right, well, that's it for today, guys. Thank you all so much for watching. And if you enjoyed this video, please like it below and hit the subscribe button and the little bell. This will allow you to get notifications every time I release a new training video for your favorite Lowrance product. Also, I wanted to give you guys some really exciting news. We will have our very own website pretty soon. LowranceTrainingAcademy.com. It's going to have even more of your favorite in-depth comprehensive training videos, so keep an eye out. Of course, I'll be sure to let you all know along the way when it'll be up and running. And don't forget, when you watch videos from Lowrance Training Academy, the difference is night and day. Alright, I'll see you all next time.